All right. We were among the first to talk about it because our show began yesterday right after the news broke of the story that Urban Meyer had kicked one of his former players, Josh Lambo, who played with the Jacksonville Jaguars, had kicked him during a practice. And Rob and I both called for him to be fired because of it, if it was true. And apparently it was true because in no short order, Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars, Rob, who had praised Urban Meyer for years and absolutely loved the hiring of Urban Meyer, gave him $60 million in a contract. And after misstep after misstep after misstep, after embarrassment after embarrassment after embarrassment, he finally realized, I got no choice.
Right.
Like, this is a mess.
Because, Chris,
and so he got rid of
I'm going to say this. A lesser coach who didn't fly back with his team after the game might have been fired there. Could have been fired right then and there.
That's fair.
And
that's fair.
Urban Meyer has cachet. He's won national championships, so he got a little bit more rope than most guys. Tell me a first-year coach who didn't have that pedigree, Chris. They would have been like, what?
No, you're right. And we had players come on, former players.
Right, who said that's unacceptable.
Like, there's no way you can do that.
Right. So we knew that.
If you got to get on a plane the next day and go back to Ohio because you're off, then do that.
That's
but
what
you
you
got
have
to
to
go
do.
back with your soldiers.
Exactly. And I just think, Chris, I'm not surprised. Remember, I told you this even before the kicker story came out. I thought he should be fired.
Right.
That there's no progress there. Lawrence isn't getting any better. I know they don't have a lot of
he
players.
Might be getting worse.
It's a rebuild. Right. He's regressing. And I know it's a rebuild, Chris, and I'm not going to sit here and say they were supposed to win 10 games and they only won 2. No, I'm not saying that. But from day one, it was almost like, Chris, he sabotaged his own situation. When you think of the moves and the stuff that he's done.
It was arrogance.
Is that what it was? Just thought that he could do whatever he wanted.
Don't you think, Rob?
Yeah.
Because
right.
Look, he ran in college football.
No, you're the king of the county.
So many fail. Yes.
Right.
You're the king of the state. You really are probably the most powerful person in the state.
And oftentimes, the football coach at state universities, Chris, are the highest paid state employees. And everybody knows their salary because every salary for a state employee is published. It's public record.
Like you said, they're oftentimes by far
higher than the governor.
Paid. Yep. The president answers to him. If you're winning, the president answers to you. The boosters obviously support you. You can do whatever you want. And Rob, you brought up Trevor Lawrence, and I think that was a good point because what also may have done it, and I mean, it was so bad. It was like we said, misstep after misstep. But it also seems, and I don't know for a fact, it hasn't been put out there, but it also seems like he and Trevor Lawrence weren't on the same page.
No, I agree.
And that trust was broken, that relationship, because when your rookie quarterback, Rob, comes out and says, we got to have this guy on the field, James Robinson.
No, on the record.
Over the coach.
On the record, right.
Right, on the record. That shows you he was frustrated. And if you watch them, I mean, James Robinson is a good running back. And so he stood up for him. And then, Rob, yesterday before the story came out about Meyer kicking Lambo, Trevor Lawrence said in his press conference that the constant drama has to stop. And the drama was almost exclusively, if not exclusively, surrounding Urban Meyer. I don't remember any. What was the other drama?
Right, there was
Chris
no other
Doyle,
drama.
The strength and coach, conditioning coach with a racist past.
Right.
Tim Tebow at tight end. The fines
not
in the off season. Right. Gardner Minshew, it might be our starter.
Right.
Not getting on the plane, the lap dance. James Robinson not playing.
Calling your assistants losers.
Right. Like, it was all, and so that, look, Trevor Lawrence, maybe he doesn't pan out. We don't know. We'll see. I think he will.
Right,
but we'll see.
But we know that.
But
we've seen a lot of young quarterbacks. Yeah. Everybody doesn't pan out. We talked about it before, Chris. You bring in 5 or 6 guys in the league, there's a good chance 3 of them might not make
it. Absolutely. And so, but you got to give him every chance to succeed, Rob. And it just seems like he was in such a dysfunctional situation that you weren't giving him a chance to succeed. So that's another reason you probably had to get rid of him. But you think what? So what do you think the future holds for Urban Meyer?
I think he is unhireable.
As a head ball coach, as he would say,
as a head ball coach, college or pros, I think he's unhireable. Wow. And here's why I think he's unhireable.
Period.
At college.
Like for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he should be done as a football coach, Chris. Wow. And here's why. Couple things that he did. I think if I'm a college president, I'm gonna have a hard time introducing this guy. He kicked somebody. Like that is just like he kicked a player. That's unacceptable under any, I don't care what the circumstance is. And we said this yesterday. You know the difference between a love tap and playing around. That player went on the record with the Tampa Bay Times, okay? On the record. He kicked me.
I don't think he would have done it if it's done in.
No.
Come on, man. Get going. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Even we had Colette Smith on, female NFL coach, and she said, look, there's ways it can do it where it's not a big deal.
But for him, but we both know when guys go on the record, Chris, this is serious because it's just not something.
It wasn't an anonymous source.
Right. You could have said, hey, did you know it was anonymous and it could have come from somebody else? Did you know that Meyer kicked the kicker? You know what I mean? Like that's different. Than the kicker putting his name to the story.
Don't put my name on it, but he kicked me.
But this is what happened. Exactly.
Yeah.
Number 2 is when the lap dance, and that was unbecoming. That showed how irresponsible he could be and disrespectful to his wife. I just thought that painted him in a bad light. And then it's a way younger girl. You know, you want him on campus. I'm just saying, I wouldn't hire him. He could go back and do TV. He could do something. I think he's unhireable. He really messed up his name from the standpoint of he showed everybody, Chris, he's not a leader. He might be a good football coach and he might have won, but the stuff that he did that we just saw, that's not a great leader to me. And I would have a hard problem leading young men with the guy who's done the stuff he's done the last 3 months, 4 months.
I hear you, but I think he's proven that he can lead. I mean, he's already led Utah, and I hear you on his character, and I'll get to that, but Utah, Florida, Ohio State. And you're right that and that's what I see with Urban Meyer, Rob, and I met him, obviously he's worked for Fox Sports, and he probably will come back to work for Fox Sports. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that happens.
Neither would I. I mean, he could, like a TV job.
I met him, and we talked, he's from Ohio. We talked about Ohio high school sports and football and all that. Seemed, it wasn't a long conversation, but, seemed like it was decent. But when I look from the outside, Rob, looking in, if you look at this and you say, this guy's character is really not good. I mean, that if strictly from the outside looking in, obviously you got all the stuff that happened at Florida under his watch. You got the stuff, remember, at Ohio State.
Aaron Hernandez, who was there.
Right. And you remember the stuff at Ohio State. With his assistant coach, Zach Smith, I think was his name.
That was his name, Chris, that he didn't do anything. And remember, he was suspended for 3 games to start the season after they found out.
And I looked at it was wrong, obviously. Like you said, you're the leader. If you know this is going on, you got to do something about it. He didn't. But I also looked at that. So I blame him for that. But I also looked at it like, well, but he didn't do it. They weren't his actions. But these things with Jacksonville were his actions, Rob. And one thing that I saw that seemed to be a pattern is passing the buck. That's one thing I really didn't like. Look, people have moral failures.
Give me the examples. Which one?
People have moral failures, and he apparently has some, at the bar.
We all do.
Women lap dance and all that. I'm not excusing it, but that a lot of people have done that. But when he says, he's talking to his assistants, and they're struggling in the preseason. I'm a winner. You guys are losers. He's putting all the blame on them.
Right.
When James Robinson doesn't play or is benched for 16 plays, 20 plays, whatever it was, and the press asks him about it, and he says, I defer to the assistant coaches, the position coaches. That's it. But then it comes out that he knew. He put it on the assistants. He said, it's not me, it's them. And so I saw too many instances, Rob, where I felt like he was passing the blame. Like, oh, our struggles are not because of me. It's because of my assistants. My assistants aren't good. It's because we don't have the good play, whatever it might be. And that's something that a leader, you got to take hits sometimes for your men. Even if it's not your fault. What do people always say, Rob? At the end of the day, I am the head coach. At the end of the day, I am the boss.
And it's under your watch.
Right. It's under my watch. I got it. Because you can, look, I get it. If you didn't do something wrong and, you hate to put your name on it when it wasn't your fault, but you can say it in a way that gives the guys who were at fault dignity. Look, we're a team. No, I didn't make that call, but you know what? The buck stops with me. And I'm the head ball coach. I keep using this term. I'm going to keep using this term. And anything that comes out of this organization, I'm responsible
a reflection
for
of me.
Ultimately.
Right. Ultimately.
At the end of the day.
Chris,
and that's what I didn't like, Rob.
Yeah.
I mean, among other things. But I'll say this, Rob. I don't think he's unhireable.
Yeah, I do.
Obviously, he'll never coach in the NFL again. And I agree with you. Look, I think UCLA or somebody would look stupid for hiring him next month or next week. I think that is unpalatable. But a year or two from now, I do think you can hire him. You can easily pay, whether he really would change, and at this age, obviously people think he wouldn't. But you can always play that card. Hey, I made some mistakes. I learned from it. Really does some soul searching. It's been a rough couple years for me, but I love football. I looked in the mirror, and I still know this game, and I still know what it takes to lead young men. You can play that whole card, and people will buy it because you've won football
But the trail
games.
now is way long, including the turning the other way to the assistant coach at Ohio State. That's still there. So if you're a president hiring him for college, you're going to have to answer that question. You're going to have to answer how he kicked a player. You have to answer how he's married and in public display getting a lap dance from a young woman in full view of everybody. Those are character flaws.